to go live. All right, so I think we're live. We'll give it just a second here to go ahead and roll in. So today's topic, what we're going to talk about, is going to be all about property taxes. So we're at that time of the year where property tax bills are in. It's probable that you might have even received your property tax assessment estimate earlier in the year, and if you're like most people, you probably threw that into a stack of I don't even cares. And then just left it, right? And now that the bills come in, that means there's a dollar figure attached to it. And so they're going to be looking at it going, oh, okay, my property value went up, I don't know, 25%. And so now they want to add $2,000 to my tax bill, which is happening year over year over year over year. So what we're going to talk about today is if that's happening to you, and if you think your property is overvalued, what you might be able to do to stop that from continuing to climb. So I have a guest with me here today in the studio. So Alessandra Elliott on my team is here, and she has actually done these type of disputes before, where if you win. Now, this is one of the things I'm going to have you clarify. If you win and it's even like a dollar reduction, they lock it for 3 years. But then there's a question of what if you don't win, or what if they decide your property is worth more, which we're going to dive into it. But first, I'm going to have Allie say hi, and then we will kind of dive into this topic. So, all right, Allie.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for having me over.
Sure.
Look forward to clarifying some, adding information to homeowners that may want to appeal their tax assessment.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I know that this conversation is something that has happened to you. I think you built your own home. Is that correct?
We did, yes. We designed it and built it, so I knew exactly what materials were used, and that's kind of what I used as the basis for my appeal.
All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Knowing the basis of a reason for appeal is going to be a big piece of that component. I'm actually trying to download the form right now because she had brought with her one of the forms for the appeal. So we'll be able to show this on camera when we get a little further in this. So first thing that I'm going to ask is, let's cover rumors.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you file a tax appeal, and let's say, because most people aren't you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to go, well, I know I'm a professional real estate agent. I know what properties are worth. Like, I can comp these things out. And if I'm not fighting the comparables, but I'm fighting features inside of the comparables, right? So that's a distinction that we should probably recognize. So is that two different ways is my first question. Can you argue with them saying, hey, you're using the wrong comparables, like this is not my house. I'm a split level. Stop using ranches. Here are better comps. And that's what my value is. My understanding is you didn't dispute the houses, you disputed what the houses had in them. Is that fair?
I did a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because they claimed that my house was superior than my neighbors, and I knew what my neighbors' houses were like. And I also noticed that the increase in taxes for my neighbors was a smaller percentage than mine from one year to another.
Like, what kind of increase are we talking about?
A couple of houses had like a 5% increase, and they claimed that it was just market appreciation.
Okay.
But mine went up 10. So if the market is 5 or it's 10, why is it not the same in the whole neighborhood?
So why did they pick yours in particular? Were you able to identify a reason why they targeted you?
So it wasn't the newest in the neighborhood.
Okay, so they basically took the neighborhood on an average, took the age of yours, and went with new. But since you built yours, you know what it was built from.
Correct.
Okay, so that gives a good distinction. So, so some of the 10,000 foot view is you not only argued certain comps, then you argued materials. Like, for example, the wood floors, like the material of what your neighbor had. Like, let's just say, I'm going to make up stuff. They have cherry wood, or Brazilian mahogany, or, something, right? Something weird. And you've got, hardwood pines or LVP or something of that nature. I'm not saying you did, but that's something along those lines that would be a distinction in value.
That's exactly what I did, actually, because I do have pine. And it's the cheapest wood floor out there. So
Okay, so that's an arguable thing from a construction standpoint. So it pays to know a little bit more about your house, right? So let's kind of back up because everybody might go, well, I don't know if I'm somebody who should file an appeal. I don't know how to file appeal. So we're going to start with, should I file an appeal? Okay, so the very first statement is, if you file an appeal, and I know this part's true, if you win, the question is, I don't know if you have to win, but if you do win, that whatever discount you get, they're not going to be raising your taxes for how many years?
3 years. It gets locked in for 3 years.
Okay.
And then after that, if nothing has changed, that automatically goes back to whatever they decide that the house is assessed for.
Okay. So in other words, if I get small increases over the next 2 years on my houses, or 3 years, let's just say, and you, pretending you lived in the same neighborhood, filed an appeal, won by $10, they got a $10 reduction on your bill is going to lock for the next 3 years. But if they decide that our houses are worth the same after the 3 years, you're going to get the 3-year jump.
Correct.
At the end of that 3 years. You're just not going to have paid the difference, or I'm sorry, you won't have paid those small incremental increases. Say it's $2,000 a year, right? So it went up from $2,000 to $4,000 to $6,000 to $8,000. At the end of that, it's going to $10,000. You would have gone from $2,000 to $10,000.
Correct.
Right? So you might have a massive increase, but you're going to save that, arguably, that several $1,000s for $8,000 in between that was paid over those 3 years will stay in your pocket.
Correct. So you get a break for 3 years, basically,
and then all bets are off.
Again.
Yeah, and then you appeal again,
Yeah.
But even then you're going to get stuck with the higher basis, but then you could lock it for another 3 years. Okay, so maybe that's a good argument. So let me ask this question. If you appeal and they disagree with you and you are unable to substantiate a reason for them to lower the bill, even $1, does the lock go in place?
If there's no change, and so because I did get my appeal, I'm not sure what the consequences are if you don't.
Okay, that's fair.
When you fill out the form, there's 4 different things that you have to choose from, and I'm not sure if they can see the form, but
I'll put the form up right now. So here's a picture of the form that you can see, and so yeah.
So where it says right in the middle of the page where it says you must select only one of the following options, you get to choose how you want to appeal. So there's the Board of Equalization appeal, and that's what I did. And that basically...
So that would be, right, hearing officer?
It's the board, the first
Got
one.
it, Board of Equalization, right here, yep.
And that the difference is if you choose that, you have the option of going to court if you don't like what the appeal comes out to after the Board of Equalization.
Okay, so what happens if you did arbitration?
I did not do arbitration.
So just based on what we see here, it says to arbitration without an appeal to the Superior Court, valuation, only grounds that may be appealed to arbitration. So in other words, if they deny you for grounds that may be appealed, you can have it arbitrated. And then the other options are hearing officers for a parcel of non-homesteaded property with fair market value in excess of $500,000 is one of those. And then Superior Court is you just directly go to court,
right,
which requires a consent of BOA. Any and all grounds, additional costs and fees may apply.
Mm-hmm.
So the asterisks are next to those 3. Realistically, you really want to go to the BOE, which would be the Board of Equalization, correct?
Yes, correct. And you can always end up at the Superior Court if you don't agree with their results.
Okay, so that kind of gives us an idea of what can happen here. So let's talk about process. You fill out this form.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and put that back up on screen and show you. So you have until this date, June 27, 2024, that this must be received or postmarked by that date. Now, here's what I can tell you about the mail. I'll look right at you for this. The mail isn't doing very well. For example, we mailed out invitations to my daughter's college graduation. And one of our good friends just texted us this morning. They received it last night, and they were sent out like 3 weeks ago. And we live like 10 minutes apart. So the U.S. mail may not be a great option. However, it has to be postmarked. If they lose it, I don't know that helps. But you can hand deliver to Cherokee County Tax Assessor's Office at this. Obviously, postmark isn't going to apply. Do that before June 27th. That's going to be my recommendation. You're going to want to fill all this information out. And then when it comes to the values, this is where people get stuck. So, Allie, can you get them to tell you what comparables they used?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I recommend you do is you first fill out your form and appeal the assessment. So
Okay.
you send this in or hand it in, and then you can email the tax assessor's office directly
Okay.
and ask them to provide you with a list of houses or properties that they use to assess yours.
Okay. So that'd be step 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So step 1, fill out the form, bring it in.
Yes.
So that establishes your time frame.
Right.
Now a process begins. You don't have to have the process completed before the 27th. You just have to have this application in.
Right.
Right. So on this application, what would you put under building value and land value? You're going to put what they're assessing it at or what you think it should be?
It is the taxpayer's estimate value. So I think I used what they assessed it as. But then where you have the comments, that's where I described why I did not agree with it.
Okay. So do you have to have the comps to fill out this section before you turn this in?
I did because I wanted to make sure that I did have a case of some sort that I suspected to have one.
Okay. So then let's say for our listeners, if they were going to do this, they might want to contact you as a real estate professional to provide them with some comparables. We may not know what the board's comparables are going to be unless they happen to have already done this form. Now they can send that email and get what their comparables are and put together a better fight. So I would say one of the things that I would recommend you guys do if you're going to fight these appeals, do it sooner, not the week of, because I guess it's June 27th. You still have till next month.
Okay.
So get the form in right away so that you can get those comparables back. Or can you get the comparables before you fill out the form?
You can request the comparables at any time.
Okay, well then forget that. So here's the deal. I would say step 1 is request the comparables. So you know if you got a leg to stand on. Because here's my fear. They're going to look at it and say, oh, your house is undervalued and adjust it upwards, which I don't know if they do that when they have an assessment out. It's either you're appealing it to get it lowered and they're either going to deny the request or, grant the request. I don't know if they're going to go, oh, well, we should raise this. However, the next year they might have notes, right? And so that's a reality you may want to consider in terms of considering how to do this. Okay, so that being said, first we're going to reverse that. So if you're watching this on the live, step 1 is to email and get the comparables on how they sent you when they send you this form. Well, it won't be this form. It'll actually be your tax assessment. It will look something like this, but it'll have your value on it. You're going to email, request the comps they use to get to that valuation that they're billing you for. Then you're going to come back and you're going to fill out that form that we just showed you on the screen and put in what you think the value is and some additional comments. You can select Board of Equalization to have this done, and then that gives you the most options in here, and you can check all that apply. So one of the things that, Alessandra, correct me if I'm wrong, you did value and you also did uniformity.
I actually did only uniformity.
Okay, so you only did uniformity.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Because I was, I could have done value, but I was not sure. I did not feel very strongly about that one. But uniformity because of the materials, because of the construction. But I am aware that not everybody knows what the neighbors' houses look like. If they have crown molding or solid oak flooring or anything like that. Because I did. Then I went straight to uniformity and I said, you're valuing my house as a better quality house than everybody else.
Got it. So the first thing that I'm going to recommend that you do in this scenario is that process we just talked about. Get their comps, call us or call Allie, call your real estate professional, get comparables from them. Mm-hmm. If it's easy, if they're using like your neighborhood, if it's like mine, half the houses have pools. Right? If your house doesn't have a pool and everybody else has a $200,000 in-ground pool, you can easily look at the comps and go, well, I'm not going to use those. I'll use the ones without pools. Boom, problem solved, right? Submit that and you would check in that particular instance, you would go down the road of value, which should be right here. Now it says check all that apply. So if you win just on that to a value you like, great. If you feel like it's going to be both, then you could probably check both, because it does say all that applies. So you can say value and uniformity, meaning they're overvaluing my property just on the basis of what it is. Number one is, these guys have pools, I don't, right? That's a simple one. And then uniformity, which that would still fall under that, pools or not pools. And then you would basically go down construction, size, square footage, all the stuff that would go into those here. Obviously, if you have a different situation, like for example, you filed for a homestead exemption, you did it properly, you went in person, you got a receipt, and it's not on your bill, it could just be exemption denied or something of that reason, and you feel like it shouldn't be, is another reason you can apply for that. The biggest one would be obviously the seniors exemption, because here in Cherokee County, you get a massive discount for senior exemption. Okay, so you do this, you fill out the value to the best of your ability of what you think it should be worth and what you think it should be taxed as. 90% of the time, you guys are going to check residential. I'll put this back up on screen. You're going to go with the residential. You're going to fill out this area, and then you basically sign here. Now, there are a lot of companies that are out there right now offering where you pay them money and they do this for you. They basically want a percentage of whatever you charge. They're going to probably call somebody like Allie or me and get the same information and fill it out and do this. So why pay them 20 to 30% of what they saved you in taxes when you can file this for free, and you can make the same phone call and get the same comparables for free, just unless you don't want to deal with the hassle, right? Then you can write them a check to go down that road. But I'm gonna put that in the huge caution category. Like, that's a massive thing, because what if they just take your money, throw this in there, and they don't really do much with it? So that's going to be the big thing. So let's kind of recap real quick and cover and then I'll open it up for any other points that you may have in terms of, questions or anything like that. So let me make sure we're good here. Okay. So step one in this process is get the comps they're using to justify your bill.
Correct.
Step two, fill out this form and get it in before June 27th. So you have just under a month, because today's the 29th of May, to get this in. Those two things are crucial on time. If you need comparable properties, call, Ursula and Associates, call Allie, call me, call Kelly, call Aaron, call Ursula, call somebody on the team and get those comparable properties in there. When you get the form filled out, you're going to really want to focus on using the BOE section, the top one, the Board of Equalization. I have to read that because it's such a weird thing. And then you're going to check all that apply on the left of that form. And all that apply on the left of the form is going to be this section here: value, uniformity, taxability. These are your two probables up here. Is if they're just using the wrong houses, it's based on value, but uniformity and value are probably going to be hand in hand on this. And so if it's me, I'm checking those, because if uniformity is they have pools and I don't have a pool, that's uniformity, but it's also value, right? Because what does that pool cost? So I'd check both those boxes if it were me. You're probably going to be residential class, and you're probably going to be under real property. This is obviously not personal, motor vehicle, or manufactured home, unless you happen to live in a mobile home that has not been retired. It has not retired its title and is not on a permanent foundation. Once this is done and it goes in, tell us about what happened to you next. So, Allie, I know you did this, and then you got, my understanding is they can go, okay, you're right, send you a letter, and it's over. But in some cases, they're like, nope. And then you actually have to go before them. And I believe that's what happened to you. So tell us about that.
So actually, I don't know that they ever say, yeah, you're right, here you go. I think they send you a letter acknowledging that you are appealing, and they give you a date when you have to show up in front of the Board of Equalization.
Okay, so you had to show up in front of the Board of Equalization, present your case, basically what you put in a synopsis in the paragraph right here that says property owner's comments. You basically had to go through and now go face to face and give them more hard written data, like bring the actual comps, bring the materials. It might behoove you, if you like your neighbors, to go talk to them and have them tell about the materials in their house, unless of course they're fighting it and they're like, no, I have pine too, right? We don't know.
Right.
Okay,
Or
so
we don't know if they finished the basement, and that Board of Appeals doesn't know, so.
yeah, well, I'm not looking to create problems with that. And so these are, this is a fairly simple process. Doesn't look too hard. Obviously, if you're going before the Board of Appeals, actually Board of Equalization. What did you bring with you?
I brought all my comps and a list of, I was prepared with all the materials. One of the things I was comparing was siding. All of the houses in my neighborhood have four sides brick siding.
Okay.
If you have vinyl or something different, it's obviously different pricing.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I came prepared with all of my comps and I presented my case. In my case, we did not get to an agreement, so we had to go to a separate room, and they basically gave me a proposal. This is what we think your taxes should be, and we stayed in there until we got to an agreement somewhere where the two of us agreed that we were satisfied.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
I think that's what usually happens.
well, I would think with the amount of appeals, from what I heard, I've never had this experience. And if you end up watching this video on whichever platform we're streaming it on, multiple at this point, if you see this video after the broadcast, let us know what happened to you. I've heard some cases where they got overwhelmed and the amount that people were disputing weren't too much, so they were able to go ahead and lower that. One of my neighbors, his wife of somebody who sat on the Board of Equalization, was at a party and we got to talking and he talked about how you go before that and what that looks like. I don't think he does it anymore, but he did in the past. As far as that kind of stuff goes, so I guess it's going to be based on manpower, right? If everybody watching this all of a sudden does this process and fills out a form, that's a lot of people in a lot of separate rooms to argue about price it sounds like a hostage negotiation. It
kind of does. And not only that, but if you do not get to an agreement and you're still not happy, you can take it to Superior Court. And if you take it to Superior Court, there's a $25 fee just to file it. But the county ends up having to hire attorneys. You may or may not need an attorney, but it becomes a lot more expensive. So it is in the best interest of the county to get it resolved right then and there.
Got it. So realistically, this is, for lack of a better term, you're going to pull these people into a room and you're going to push as hard as you can to get to a number that you want. And when you feel like they're at a walking number and they're ready to spend the money on an attorney and take it to court, you basically settle and lock that thing for those 3 years.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I hope the county's not listening.
Even if they are,
yeah, it is what it is.
I'm not filing an appeal, so you're not going to see my face in there.
Neither am I.
Right. I was going to say, at this point, we feel like our values are fair and life is good. So if you want to file an appeal, here's what I will leave you with. Give us a call. We can talk to you about this process. We will not do it for you. We're not providing a service like these other places. We're not charging anybody, but our clients in our community that want to know where they can get this and what resources do they have and who can they speak to. One, we can provide comparable properties to it. Two, aside from what is on this broadcast, we can give you categories to be able to look at. For example, roof material, siding material, flooring material, upgrades like bathrooms, kitchens, screened-in porches, landscaping, and not just landscaping like I put in 5 flowers and that's a thing. But if you've got a $50,000 hardscape or landscape setup, we can get those kinds of things. You can go and find out what it will cost to put those in and bring those as valuations. And of course, in-ground pools, because they are not cheap. What used to cost $100,000 to get put in is now $250,000. So these things have significant value. Now, will you get a dollar on dollar on this? Absolutely not. The point is if you can get anything off, you can lock it for 3 years and be able to win that time frame. What I don't know is if you fail to reach anything and you decide not to follow through in the court option, at that point, I don't think anything is locked because basically it stands. You threw the flag up, went through the process, and bowed out at that point. But I promise they're probably going to offer you something, would be my guess. I can't speak to that, but it would stand to reason if you're coming in with facts, actual facts, saying, brick siding, right? That's significant amount of money.
Right.
Hardwood floors, we're talking 5 figures, right? In difference in cost and value. So even if they say, fine, we'll give you, instead of, those things equal $25,000 in valuation, we'll give you $5,000 in valuation, which equals a handful of dollars off the bill. You now have a locked value for the next 3 years.
Right.
And so if this is something that you want to pursue, please feel free to give us a call. If you think they're valuing your property way under what it's worth, I have no idea what the ramifications are if you go ahead and try this and they see that your property is worth a bunch more. So some people have opted not to simply draw attention to what might be an increased tax bill that they're not thrilled with. So that's about it that I have on the topic. Allie, do you have anything else that you want to add before we're done?
I wanted to add one thing. So anybody can ask for the list of properties that they use to assess their property, whether you're going to appeal or not.
Okay.
And one of the things that we can help, even if we regardless or in addition to the market report that we can do, we can analyze the properties that they are providing you.
Okay.
So their list, we can look at those properties and see how they compare to yours to see if they're even comparables or not. So that's one more thing that we can do, and that may make you decide whether you really want to appeal or not.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, that helps us out. I really, really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us, and hopefully you guys are able to get a bunch out of this. I did get a comment from somebody about the sound being a bit echoey on one of the microphones. We apologize on that. This is live. This is not rehearsed, and this is not edited in any way, shape, or form. So if you have questions, give us a call. I'll actually put this on the screen. So Aaron Wilson threw up there Alessandra's email and her phone number, so you can see that directly on the screen right now. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. We would love to help you. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Allie, for being here. I really appreciate you. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.